Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. You're watching P3, the place where we feature individuals who have tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and today I'm excited and very grateful to have the powerful Vanessa Eans. She goes by the Absolute Alchemist, and she's just a delight and filled with so much wisdom. Thank you, Vanessa, for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
Yes, I met Vanessa just a few weeks ago through a friend of mine, and she reached out, she texted me, and she was like, oh my gosh, you have to meet this girl. I just know that y'all are going to hit it off, but I want to gift you a session. And funny enough, she didn't even know it was like my birthday. And so I got to have a really beautiful session with her. And so I don't want to take up too much more of our time talking about that. We could talk about it a little bit later, but again, thank you for being here. And please,
thank you for having me.
The title, Absolute Alchemist, and I know that you're sort of in a transition too, where you might be changing and rebranding and things like that, but alchemy is such a powerful word, and I would love for you maybe to just kind of define it in your own language to help people get a point of reference, because there are religions that have somehow frowned upon that word, and I didn't really, and I had no idea. But yes, please talk about what alchemy means.
Sure. I mean, to me, it is definitely transforming or transmuting kind of the lead of your soul. So it's essentially taking your pain and transmuting it into power. And the energy of that is the passion, that resides, I guess you could say, organically within, and that comes from source energy, right? Because each one of us are an individual light, and each one of us are unique and special, and we all have a part here to play, right? That's our purpose. And so oftentimes we get our purpose so mixed up with our identity, right? And so I feel that it's super important to come from our origin, and like you, we share kind of the same message, in that we all have arrived whole and complete with everything that we need for this life. We are lacking no thing. And we are just completely perfect. However, as we're going through life, we get those soul wounds, we get, to have those encounters with other people's energy that just doesn't seem to kind of mix. We've had experiences of not being known and not being seen and not being heard. And so I feel that my role here is to balance everything out between source energy and our earthly experience. And so that's why I called myself the Absolute Alchemist, which that's kind of starting to shift just a little, because I feel like my sole purpose here is to really, and what makes it kind of difficult to define what I do even, is I find that because I have the ability innately to move myself out of the way and to really channel source or spirit for another, which for me looks like channeling God energy, source energy, creator energy with another's highest self, meaning their point of origin, who they came as a holistic entity or spirit to be. And a lot of people call that the highest self, or refer to the highest self. And I find that it's difficult sometimes because uniqueness is such a it's the beauty in life to me. Okay. And I feel that when I encounter another person, I find that I'm so honored to connect to that uniqueness within them. And it's like it's without definition, because everybody has come here as an unprecedented soul. So even though we share the one aspect of us all coming from source, all coming from God, we're all one in that. In order to experience oneness, we do have to autonomate, we do have to individuate, we do have to be in our sovereignty. And so I feel like my mission and my role in life is not to come and really necessarily define myself as anything other than nothing in the moment, if that makes sense. So when I come, I've moved myself. I have the ability to completely move myself aside and read the energetic imprints of another person that they come with in their cosmic alliance, and then be able to embody that and live that out through their own unique, power, passion, and purpose. And so that is my, I feel that I'm a conduit essentially for that energy to be able to, provide a mixture. So it essentially, alchemy, yes, it is getting rid of, the lead in your soul, or transmuting it through integration, but it's also integrating, that cosmic energy into how you can show up in the world. And for me, as the alchemist in that moment, is I am just pulling together whatever it looks like for you in any given moment, whether that's, a crowd of people and I'm reading for them, or it's one individual. It doesn't matter, because I don't have any self-reliance or trust in myself in that moment. I'm just channeling the cosmic energy for an individual in front of me, if that makes sense. So it's kind of hard to put words to it. It's really a very subtle energetic work that's happening. I can see that I'm, clearing cosmic, blocks and energy that has come in to say, hey, the have-nots, the are-nots, the not self-theme, and then being able to kind of clear that path so that the person can see within themselves. And so I do that using, extrasensory abilities that I was born with, I came here with. And so essentially part of my story is that, the only way I can explain it to people is that I was born awake. I was always able to see into a person's soul and to see who they really are, beneath all of the behavior, beneath all of the wounds, beneath all of the, who they purely came to be. And that energy often comes through in the inner child, and so there's a lot of inner child work that I feel that I end up doing with my clients. So I'm just trying to touch on kind of the things that is a thread of commonality, while still also expressing that there's no preconceived notions. I don't have any specific way, that I tune in, because it's unique to the individual, right? So I use my extrasensory abilities, just as you have physical senses. You have, sight, and you have a mind, and you have ears, hearing, and you have feeling. You have that in the etheric realm as well. And so what I do is I tune into a person's energy to see where their extrasensory abilities are the strongest, and then I speak to them according to that. And I feel that that's how Source really kind of deals with us on an energetic level, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense. And I know, so for some people that are watching this, the language that you're using, they've heard it before and they're comfortable with it. Sometimes people hear cosmic and they're like, huh? And so really, when we want to just go like from like a science perspective, this is physics, where physics and spirituality sort of combine together.
Absolutely.
This is this idea of the quantum field, the 0 point, the atomic aspect of the self, that there's this mystery that is within the atom that they still can't really define.
Exactly.
We're talking about the 99.97 point whatever of what they say is space, empty space, that we now know is filled with something they just can't.
Absolutely.
Right? And so what we're able to see and hear from sort of like in a limited way, there's also this other way that we have communicated for eternity. It's always
exactly
existence, and humanity has been we've been sort of disembodied and disconnected from that intelligence. And
absolutely.
And it's really important for us to identify the ways in which that trauma is impacting us, even though they've got the answers inside of them. You help communicate some of that to people.
And it's a pure work, and that's the word absolute for me is not in, you know, the I guess you could say, like you said, religious sense of the word. It's just simplicity and purity. Because I find that what trauma can tend to do is to complicate and overcomplicate. And it sets us on an energetic pattern of searching outside of ourselves for the answers when everything is still within. And so in order to, you know, find that neutral zone, to neutralize the pain back into your power, is to simplistically let go of, and what I mean by let go is you're transforming that pain by centering back into what is purely you and your energy. Because what I find is that what you're attuned to, that space of origin, that all of the other things kind of start to fall off. It's not necessarily a dismantling. And because we are so inundated with outside information, we seek outside of ourselves so much, so often, that we've lost the sound of our own voice. We've lost, you know, the hearing of that. We've lost the knowing of that. And so, yes, you're absolutely correct in that. I feel that my role here is to become nothing so that I can channel infinite intelligence for another person. And that is my initiating energy, is what is also known as claircognizance. It's an immediate knowing. I know who you are. I know all about you. Then I can start to visualize what's going on, and that's clairvoyance, right? Clear seeing. And then clairaudience comes in. And so how I ended up kind of, I think, unscathed, you know, we both, I did have my stint in religion, but I wasn't brought up in it. And I was brought up in, you know, yes, there was mass amounts of chaos and trauma and things going on. But I was brought up by, I'm a Gen Xer. And so I had two, baby boomer parents. And one was, my dad was a biker and he was like the hardcore rebel. And then I had my peace loving hippie mom, that ran around with her, army jacket on with a peace sign painted on the back. And so they had two very different experiences of life, at that time that they kind of, passed on to me. And I think that that had a lot to do with my being able to see, kind of the pitfalls of religion once I did get into it. And to see that, the absolute heartbreaking part of the organized religion is that detachment from the inclusiveness of the universe and that oneness and that aspect of being one. And I was continuously, wounded in my soul by the separation that was happening. And so I love the fact that, God, is like, here, I'm going to have her be born on this specific day at this specific time with tons of Libra energy. And anybody that knows anything about Libras know that we're all about balance and relationship. And so I want to be able to empower, inspire and include people into the fact that this is absolutely a relationship that you have with the universe, with source, with creator, and with one another, and that there is no separation in that. There's no need for us to compete with one another or to compare notes or information, or to say that, well, in order to be really super powerful, I need to become like Vanessa. In order to be really super inspirational, I need to be like Jamie. I need to, it's all of those things. That's the programming of the world that has had it flipped upside down. And so essentially alchemy for me is really pretty simple, of just flipping it back upright and to say that you are a spiritual being that came to have a human experience. You are an unprecedented soul. Let's have a look here at where you have the separations going on, right? So that we can be aligned energetically with one another, with ourselves. It's not a separate work that we're doing here. And that's why I'm so grateful for what you're doing. Sweet, beautiful soul. The fact that you're holding these, interviews and having people on. It's just phenomenal to me. Your beauty is outstanding and you shine so bright. And I'm just so honored. I feel honored even in this moment. It's like the presence of, just our oneness and connecting with each other and having similar, hearts to just see people just really come alive to their, their passion and their power and their purpose. I just think I love the title. I love the show. I love what you're doing. It's just amazing. I'm so excited.
I appreciate you saying those kind things about the work that I'm doing, but really, I really do feel like at the core that the altruistic humanitarian calling,
Yes.
and I want
it's
every,
so important.
yes, right? And like you were saying, everybody is a piece of this power. Everybody has a right to be
Everybody.
passionate about something, and everybody should feel purposeful. But at the very bare bones, all of our purpose is to remember and understand and learn, what does unconditional love actually mean? And whatever religion or follower or your version of God, I know that you and I really respond strongly with Jesus and Yeshua's
Yes.
messages, because they were, like you
Yes.
said, they were so simple, just,
Yes.
and just the golden rule: treat others as you wish to be treated. Well, you know why we struggle
Right.
with that? Because we treat ourselves really shitty. And there's so many different things that you touched on, particularly that concept of the illusion of separation and oneness. And what's really interesting, like you said, when you start doing this personal work on yourself, all the ways in which you feel split and broken, and
Yes.
once you start sealing and healing and revealing, and and all these things that you need to do to remember and
Yes.
remember and
Remember.
return and
Right.
back to the seed of what you are. Funny
Exactly.
enough, it makes it easier. All these things, like you said, when you start to get to that space and place, all the other things start to
Yeah.
come tumbling
Oh,
down.
it's so simple. Yeah.
Yes, and you really do understand and start to realize that you're one with everything and that life is for you, even when challenges and obstacles come, hit you in your face,
Absolutely.
and things don't go
Yes.
as planned. And
I always laugh.
as planned.
I laugh
And
so
so
much.
there's this compassion that we all want to have for one another, because we're each here we're, like you said earlier, even though we're all coming from the same source, there is a very unique aspect to our personalized perspective in all of this.
Yes.
And we need
Yes.
to be mindful of every human and their weaknesses and strengths and the families that they were born into and the traumas that they have. So because we all have cultural, societal, religious traumas, maybe personal traumas, sex trauma, like you name it, we all
Oh,
got bamboozled.
yeah.
We all
All
got
of us.
bamboozled. So
We all have.
we're all in this together, and we're
That's
all
right.
turning and remembering together.
It's true. It's
And
true. And that's why I say to people all the time, um, the message in the world is that focusing on self is selfish. And, I'm sure that this has been, a resonating message here on, your channel. I know that it's part of, what you do as an individual. And I think that, that's the alchemy, word becoming, kind of, I mean, if I can use the word demonized,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and made to be, out to be something that's horrible and wicked and selfish. The thing about it is that until you get into your sovereignty, until you come from that origin point, like we were talking about, one of the things that I find valuable over and over and over is the words, you know, you will love your neighbor as you love yourself. Okay. And I think that what a lot of people don't understand is that you will love another to the extent that you love yourself. And this is why it's not a selfish act to get into your sovereignty, to learn to appreciate and love yourself, and to take care of yourself, and to be acutely self-aware, because it's in that space that you're coming from, that place, oneness with source, with God, and experiencing that relationally absolutely affects how you show up in the world. I mean, we are essentially mirrors in a mirrorverse.
Mm.
And so as we're interacting and reflecting with one another, if we're in pain, we're reflecting that out. Now, what bothers me is when even in this community, when I hear it's not okay to, express this kind of negative vibe. You hear that a lot. Everybody talks about positive vibes versus negative vibes and all of this. And here's the thing. Creation and creativity and co-creating is a messy process. We can look at what's going on in the world right now and see the chaotic mess. But the question is does the artist ever look down at the palette and try to clean off all of the layers, multiple layers of paint as they've been painting throughout their lifetime? Do we go and try to clear the palette and present ourselves as this perfectly clear, positive, look at this, there's no dirt on me? That's the mask, right? And we don't want to be inauthentic. In fact, it's authenticity, it's vulnerability, it's the ability to say, I'm a mess right now. I'm not trying to exalt myself above you and say, I am leading you in the way by saying that I have all the perfect information. I'm showing up with you. And that's the equality, right? That's the equality of everybody having a part here to play. And we have to stop with the message of shame and guilt and condemnation and all of those things. I just think it's absolutely ludicrous, right? If we're going to call ourselves way showers and light workers and all of that, we've got to be able to really embody what it looks like and speak our truth from where we're at in the moment, even if we're having a really shitty time. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be real.
That's what
about,
I'm saying.
yeah.
And REAL, like you mentioned, authenticity. God clearly, said, look, you cannot have authenticity without vulnerability and humility. And y'all's
Yes.
civilization, humanity struggles with these things for a lot of reasons.
Do.
And there's a lot of guilt and shame. Those are two.
Yes.
Those are two emotions that are the lowest vibratory emotions.
Right.
The signal that it sends all the cells in the body when we have a thought or an emotion, a feeling or a thought, it's sending a signal to our blood. That's why there's so much significance in the blood. And you said we came here with a palette of emotions, a palette of colors. And and we need to reframe and understand the emotions and thoughts that have an adverse effect on us, on our health and our well-being, and the ones that fuel ourselves with light and energy. And there's others that stress the body, and that's where self-awareness and self-accountability and self-compassion come into this walk of self-love. Because we have to see and understand what is that undercurrent impulse that we have that is actually driving us towards things that are unhealthy and not really good, not just for ourselves, but for our relationships, for our family. For the world.
I mean, we're here incarnating, we have our upright, that pure positive energetic connection to source and creator, God, right, individually. So as people are coming relationally, they're essentially coming to cross that. And it's exactly what we want. We want that offense. We want those triggers. We want that negative. See, and that's the thing, is we call it negative, but what we don't realize is that in the bigger picture of what's going on here, that contradicting energy is exactly what points you back to this. And so without it, you have no alchemy. You don't. And so it's ridiculous to suppress. It's just insane to me that we oppress and suppress the negative darkness, emotions, and experience, because you came to have that experience. So
and when you can, and it is balancing it out. When you can view the uncomfortable emotions that you're going to feel from a different
Absolutely.
perspective,
Yes.
then
Yes.
you can see how they can be used to propel you and to help you grow. It's also giving you an opportunity to learn how to master your nervous system. But before you can do that, you need to understand what emotion does and
Yes.
understand the physiological processes that are going on, and then get curious about why breath is such a big thing.
Right.
And like you said, instead of us denying our anger and repressing it, when we repress or suppress, we become depressed
Exactly.
because it's being pressed and you're like trying to shove it in a closet and under a rug and in a pillow.
Bypass.
You know what I mean? You know, we are mysterious and we should
Yeah.
learn how to return back to curiosity.
That's
That is a
that's
huge
my
virtue.
main. Yes.
It,
I tell people a lot, the not self theme of the know-it-all, the mask that we wear when we encounter one another, and what we're wanting to do is to protect ourselves. We're wanting to protect our innocence. We're wanting to protect that pure light inside that is just, I just want to be with you. I just want to be one with you. And we often want to protect that so much, that we show up with the not self theme of, I've got it all figured out and I know, and information, information, information. And we lose that sense of intuition. We lose that connectedness and that groundedness of our intuition because we're so programmed to receive language and information and education, and not realizing that we have all of that already residing, and being able to tap into that is a lot of times looks like just clearing out the voices and the thoughts of someone being another, and reconnecting to the fact that when I'm looking at you and when I'm connecting to you, I am seeing my own reflection. You are an extension of me and I am an extension of you, and we are one. And so what can I gain from you? What can I receive from you? And then what can I give to you? And it's an equal exchange, right? And I forget that initial, there was something that you said that sparked that off, but I just really feel that the lack of, it was the bypassing of, emotions. It was the bypassing of what we deem as negative. The neutral point perspective doesn't call something good or bad. The neutral point perspective doesn't say this is good, this is evil. The neutral point perspective doesn't say this is either positive or negative, right? We're able to become the unattached observer in that moment. And that is essentially what it looks like to move yourself aside. It's not about your agenda. It's not about what you're needing in that moment. It's just an equal exchange without resistance. It's a flow, and it's an ebb, and it's an energetic thing that's happening. And so we could say frequency and we can say vibration and we can say all of that. But when we start throwing in the word negative and positive, think about that. Even when you speak those very words out, you're casting a spell essentially to the other person to say, you're divided in your mind. You have a positive and you have a negative, and now you've got to try to reconcile that mentally. What if we removed all of that? What if we learned to just completely get away from trying to analyze and process through our brains, and we go back to that intuitive knowing that there is nothing that can harm us. There is nothing that is removing us. There is no detachment or separation. Detaching, unattached observer doesn't mean detaching from the one. It actually just says, hey, all of this that's happening here, it's like a practice, it's a play, it's the art of creating. But who I really am is I am.
mm-hmm.
And in my state of being, it's I am that I am. And when we see that being exchanged with one another in a pure essence of our formless form, right? It comes all the way through. You're not just a spirit. You're not just a human. You are both. You've incarnated here for a purpose and a reason. And
Yes.
your purpose and your reasoning in that moment is to be found energetically with the one in front of you. And so that's where we can just really rest. We don't have to strive. We're not working for something, even though we call it the work. It's effortless.
Yeah.
It's a flowing and an ebbing with one another and the relational connection that we have. And in that moment, that's where those things like the Trinity really comes alive. That's when that moment of unity is really expressed. And we can do so in diversity without resistance.
Understanding what resistance feels like and being able,
Yes.
you know, in the
To
present.
work through it.
Yes, how, when we feel resistance, can we work through it in real time,
Mm-hmm.
non-judgmentally, as best as we
Yes.
possibly can? And I think
Right.
too, because the mind and the human needs some sort of point of reference, we are in a world of polarity, of duality. The,
Absolutely.
the whole idea of
On
negative.
purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And really, we're here on a mission to, going back to the word alchemy, it's seeing our shadow side of self, seeing the human side and the primal animalistic side of the
Absolutely.
experience, which, by the
Yep.
way, we have free will to go as far into the dark and far removed from the light as we possibly want. And we
Absolutely.
also have the ability to go as close, as far into the light, and that's infinite that way. It's like a spiral staircase that goes upward and downwards.
Exactly.
And no one's forcing you to go up or down. You're always the one that's sort of doing it, and God is loving us whatever direction we're walking. God's always, and his
Absolutely.
love is always constant. It's pure and
Yeah.
it's real. And I really love you touching on the word real. The more real we become, the more able we are to be in the presence. And it's like a present to be able to be present with another human being and really give
Yes.
them your ear and your heart and really make them feel like, I know I'm the same way as you. When I'm with someone, I really make the most of that time that I'm with them because I think it's sacred, and I think every human is
Yes.
this like sacred piece of God, despite the story that they are carrying with them,
Yes.
and if we
Yes.
all get to that place, then imagine, what the world would look like. And there's a lot of us that feel the
Yes.
way you and I do. And that's why I love doing shows like this, because I want more people to be able to connect with individuals like you, because I know that you have your website and you do video blogs and classes, and there's all these things that you're involved with. And there are people that are going to resonate with how you specifically share the message and how you specifically can help people evolve into their optimal self. I'd love to hear just a couple of self-care practices.
Sure. So my self-care looks like a lot of nature, spending a lot of time in nature. I love listening to the trees and the wind. And, I feel very, very connected in that, and just being still, basically. So my self care looks like, just a lot of, excuse me, meditation. It also looks like a whole lot of laughter, a whole lot of laughter. And so whatever makes me laugh, whether it's a friend of mine, getting on the phone with, my best friend or something and just laughing our asses off, or playing with my kids, or, doing something creative, art, drawing, writing. So that's what my, grounding looks like, my centeredness. I love to just allow my mind to just drift and daydream and just explore, and it refuels me, and oftentimes it brings me right back into my next thing that I'm moving into. And so kind of I don't really have I know that we're all ritualistic, I guess you could say, in different ways, but I am very, how do you put it, all over the map. I'm creativity is kind of my thing. And so I don't really put in my mind of like, oh, my self-care is to go in here and do this, bath ritual or anything like that, which I know a lot of people find that very helpful. For me, it's whatever I'm feeling in that moment to just do. And so I really like, it kind of comes along with my life motto of I've never known how to do anything that I've ever done. And in every given moment, it's my purpose to show up and bring meaning to all that I do. And so it's really, just how I live my life is from moment to moment to moment to moment. So at any given moment, it could look like, I don't know, maybe I'm out for a nature walk and I just go splash in a creek that's nearby. I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
And that's the other thing that I love so much about you, and another reason why we connect is because that's very childlike. There's a lot of spontaneity.
Yes.
In the way we live our lives. Like, yes, sure, we make plans and we have goals and we have aspirations, but we're so relaxed about everything. And it's the simplest of things in life that really bring you a lot of joy and awe, which is very childlike. And so for us to tap back into that wonder and awe really helps us light up from the inside, and so much is weighing us down and we're so and
I know.
and
I know.
I love coloring, I love singing, I love dancing, I like harmonica. Like when I'm feeling kind of melancholy, I've also learned to find the beauty in the days where I am feeling that way, and wanting to be very sort of inactive, and it's more of like sort of a slothy kind of energy. And I have to honor that and respect that. And then there's times where I'm like this, and I can't done it. You know what I mean? And so you just need to like relax and understand what it really means to be in flow and to go with the flow. And all of these things are all part of, living intentionally and deliberately and mindfully. Thank you again so much for being with us. You deliver so much beautiful wisdom. Please let people know how they can contact you.
Okay. Well, right now I just have my Facebook page because I'm 1 year young as far as running my business online. You can search Absolute Alchemist. I do have my website. It's www.absolutealchemist.com. And I am looking to expand onto the rest of the social media as soon as I can kind of get centered in this whole technology thing that seems to be ever elusive in my life. That's the one thing I'm always feels like I'm chasing after, and I just kind of have to laugh at myself because when I think that I've caught up to it, it just kind of goes away again, and I'm like, what?
People can help us with those.
Yeah, so shout out to anybody that wants to help me with that. Maybe we can make an exchange.
Perfect. I love it. I cannot say enough about the work that she does. My session, it really created an impact on me, and it helped me shift. And a lot of us that are in this line of work, be humble enough to know that we need each other, and we can help bring insight into one another's story, journey, blockages, limitations, and things like this. So be humble in that way. Vanessa, I want to wish you continued blessings on all of your endeavors. And I'm looking forward to having you on the Sacral Circle as well.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm super excited. So much love to you. All the love to you.
I want to also thank you just for all the work that you've done on yourself, all the work that you've done to help your community and the world, because it involves a lot of selflessness, so I honor you greatly.
Oh, thank you so much. I honor you right back.
And I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. Be sure to tune in to next week's episode of P3 when we'll meet Aurora Esmeralda. She's a multi-dimensional transformation and spiritual coach. You aren't going to want to miss what she has to say about power, passion, and purpose. Your likes, shares, and follows are greatly appreciated because they help spread the love. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. Till next time, peace be in us.